In fountain pen world, there are things that we just accept as true, that gold nibs are better than steel nibs, that piston fillers are better than converters, and Japanese brands are the pinnacle of quality. But every once in a while, a pen comes along that makes you question all of this. And today we're looking at one of those pens. This is the Majohn P140. On the surface, it's a good-looking Mont Blanc 149 inspired modern fountain pen from a Chinese company that's known for packing in a ton of value. But under the hood, it's got a combination of features that are engineered for pure writing pleasure. They gave the P140 a massive number 8 sized steel nib, which seems to be very much in fashion at the moment. But the crucial part is that they paired this with an Ebonite feed. And ebonite is a material with a long history in pen making, but it's mostly been replaced in modern times with plastic, which is cheaper and easier to work with. In this review, we're going to find out if this affordable combo of a workhorse steel nib and a high-performance ebonite feed makes the Majohn P140 one of the best, wettest and smoothest writers out there. Let's see if this is the pen that finally proves that the most important part of your pen isn't the nib, it's what's right underneath. The first thing that you notice when you take the Majohn P140 out of the box is the sheer substance. It's not a flimsy pen. The barrel and cap are made of tough and clear acrylic that gives a reassuringly solid feel. It's solid and really well made, especially when you remember the price, which is around £30 in the UK, 35 to 40 US dollars. The finish is excellent and seems resistant to everyday scratches and feels like it belongs on a much more expensive pen. The design itself is classic and clean. It's a similar size and design to the Mont Blanc 149. It's oversized, cylindrical, with rounded ends, combining that classical and modern styling. The clip is strong and functional. It's a simple design that fits well with the pen's minimalist vibe really well. The cap band is a little bit more fussy with a patterned detail, but it's subtle enough to be in keeping with the rest of the pen. But personally, I think they would have been better off sticking with something a bit plainer. When you unscrew the cap, which does take 2 turns, you reveal a long and comfortable grip section with threads that are smooth and precise and don't feel sharp. It's well balanced in the hand with a bit of back weighting coming from that brass piston mechanism. The cap, it does post and feels very secure, but this isn't the kind of pen that I would write posted personally. Arguably, one of the best features of the P140 is this piston filling mechanism, and if you're new to fountain pens, it just means that the ink reservoir is built into the body of the pen itself. You just dip the nib of the pen fully submerged into a bottle of ink, you twist the knob of the back all the way down to push out all of the air, and then you turn it again clockwise, and it draws ink straight into the barrel. This has 2 huge advantages: ink capacity, which is around about 1.5 millilitres, and also convenience that you don't have to fill quite as often. And that 1.5 millilitre ink capacity really does make the P140 a real workhorse, perfect for anyone who does a lot of writing or anyone who hates constantly re-inking their pen. However, with the nib being quite long, it does mean that you'll need a decent sized bottle of ink to fully immerse the nib deep enough to fully fill the pen. However, you can eyedropper fill the pen by unscrewing the nib unit and just adding ink using a pipette or eyedropper. And this is useful if you've got lots of smaller ink bottles or sample bottles. The piston mechanism feels smooth and reliable, and although there's no flats on the piston mechanism itself, there are a couple of very tiny slots where you will need a proprietary tool to fit into the side there to allow you to unscrew this and service it. I don't have one of those, so can't show you how to do this, but it's nice that Majohn thought about servicing this pen, and being able to take it apart and re-grease that piston mechanism means that this should last you many years. let's get to the main event, because the part of the pen that I think truly sets it apart is this nib and feed combined. And this is where our story about ink flow really comes together, because the P140 has this massive number 8 steel nib. It really is quite long. As I mentioned, if we compare this to the Jinhao 9019, you can see the additional length there, and that will just be far more difficult to get into the bottom of an ink bottle. But it is incredibly smooth right out of the box, can't fault it there. And with it being steel, it is quite a firm nib. But if you've got quite a heavy hand, you can apply some pressure, which will splay the tines just very slightly, giving some line variation. But that isn't what this pen's designed for. But the nib is only half a story, and I think that the real star of the show, this pen's secret weapon and what gives it its amazing performance, is the Ebonite feed. So most pens use a plastic feed. Plastic's cheap and easy to make, but it's not a porous material. That means that ink flow depends entirely on a tiny moulded channel for capillary action, which sometimes struggles to keep up if you're writing fast. Ebonite, on the other hand, is a type of hard rubber, and it's an old school material that has one crucial property that plastic doesn't, and that's that it's slightly porous. It's hydrophilic, meaning it likes water, or in our case, ink. So the Ebonite feed itself is acting like a little reservoir, holding a supply of ink right behind the nib, ready to go instantly when you start writing. The result is a remarkably wet and generous ink flow that is also unbelievably consistent. With this Ebonite feed, the P140 just doesn't skip or hard start for me. It lays down a rich wet line every time. This combination of the big, smooth steel nib and high performance Ebonite feed, I think, is a magic formula, and it proves that you don't need a pricey gold nib to get a world-class writing experience. Alright, enough talk, let's get some ink in this thing and let's see how it writes. Today I'm going to use some Octopus Fluids Griffin. This is a sheening ink. You'll see that I'm going to fill from a sample bottle using a little eyedropper pipette that I've got. Really handy when you're using ink sample bottles quite a lot and you've got piston filler pens. Okay, so we've got Rhodia 80 gram dot grid paper. We've got the Octopus Fluids Griffin ink loaded up. This is a Majohn P140. The nib is a medium size, and as soon as that hits the page, you can really understand what I'm talking about, the shading that's starting to come through from the wetness of that nib. It really doesn't let up. The downstrokes are just wet and juicy, side strokes a little bit less, but that would be expected. And that nib's nice and smooth. It's not overly smooth. You can feel the surface of the paper, but it's not at all scratchy. Now, if we write a bit quicker, or we make some scribbles and loops, that feed just really continues to keep up. Not letting go at all, still thick, saturated downstrokes. And where you write slowly, you can really see saturation and the shading of the ink taking over, which is what I really like about this nib and feed combination. And with an ink that shades nicely, like this one from Octopus Fluids, I don't think you can go wrong at all. If I just show you pushing down, what I mentioned around with pressure, you do need to be careful with this nib because it is steel and you will splay the tines permanently if you press down too hard, but just a little bit of pressure, you can get a wider stroke compared to no pressure at all. So that's what I mean. This definitely isn't a flex pen, so I don't advise trying to make this flex. You will bend the nib. What can I say? The pen's just brilliant. I've had this on my desk for the past couple of weeks and I've been using it non-stop. It hasn't hard started. It hasn't let up. It's just been beautiful. I don't think this is just good for the price. I think this is a world-class writing experience. So, what do you think? Have you tried a pen with an Ebonite feed and a steel nib? Did you notice the difference? Let me know in the comments. What's your personal secret weapon pen? What's your pen that works perfectly every single time that you pick it up and it's just a joy to write with? And if you enjoyed this video, taking a look at what I think makes this pen really great, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more reviews that just go beyond the marketing hype.